My sister thought she was a genius. She looked our parents dead in the eye, squeezed out a few perfect tears, and told them she was dying of aggressive stage 3 leukemia. The timing? Impeccable. It was 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave for my dream year at Columbia University. Suddenly, my tuition fund was cleared out, my deferred admission was locked in, and I was forced to become her round-the-clock live-in nurse while she bought designer clothes online with our medical fundraiser money. For 8 months, I said nothing. I washed her hair, held her hand, and watched her live like a queen on the back of my ruined future. But she made one catastrophic mistake. She forgot that fake chemo doesn't leave real medical records. And when her own oncologist finally stepped into the living room, her golden throne didn't just crack, it completely shattered. My name is Sarah, and at 28 years old, I believed that hard work was the only currency that truly mattered. For 5 agonizing years, I worked 2 jobs, survived on cold coffee, and sacrificed every night of sleep to earn my spot at Columbia University. It was my ticket out, my chance to finally build a life of my own. My sister, Chloe, was the exact opposite. She lived for drama, attention, and shortcuts, always managing to turn the spotlight back on herself whenever anyone else dared to shine. The morning I finally pulled my packed suitcases into the hallway, ready to catch my flight to New York, Chloe walked into the living room with a trembling lip and tears rolling down her cheeks. My parents froze, dropping my bags. Chloe looked us dead in the eye and delivered the bomb. She had aggressive stage 3 leukemia. In less than 10 seconds, my years of relentless effort were completely swept away. Before the ink on her fake diagnosis was even dry, my parents sprang into action. Without asking for my input or even taking a breath to process the shock, they transferred my entire Columbia tuition fund, every cent of the $40,000 I'd painstakingly saved, into a private account for Chloe's experimental treatments. When I tried to speak up, my mother's eyes flashed with pure rage. She accused me of being selfish, asking how I could even think about an Ivy League education while my own sister was fighting for her life. The guilt was suffocating. Within 48 hours, I was forced to defer my admission, unpack my bags, and step into the role of Chloe's round-the-clock live-in caregiver. My dreams were put on ice indefinitely. Suddenly, I wasn't a scholar bound for New York anymore. I was an exhausted, isolated servant trapped in my parents' house, fetching soup, tracking imaginary pill schedules, and watching my hard-earned future vanish into thin air. As the weeks blurred together, small details began to feel completely wrong. Chloe complained constantly about brutal chemotherapy side effects, yet her weight stayed perfectly stable and her skin remained strangely radiant. Her hair loss was strangely patchy, appearing only in places easily hidden by clever styling. Oddly enough, her absolute worst flare-ups always happened to land precisely on days I asked about rescheduling my Columbia admission, while she was magically energetic enough for late-night online shopping. Then came the online fundraiser. Chloe launched a massive crowdfunding campaign, weeping on video for sympathetic strangers who quickly donated tens of thousands of dollars. But instead of medical bills, hidden packages began arriving daily at our doorstep, filled with high-end cosmetics, silk loungewear, and expensive synthetic wigs. Before I reveal what I found hidden in her room, take a second to comment the city you're watching from. I love seeing how far our community reaches. I was breaking my back caring for a dying girl, but something in my gut told me I was actually pampering a con artist. Driven by that sickening instinct, I waited until Chloe left the house for what she claimed was an urgent blood transfusion at the local clinic. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I slipped into her bedroom and closed the door behind me. My hands were shaking as I systematically searched through her closet, drawers, and nightstand. Hidden deep beneath a stack of luxury blankets in her wardrobe, I found a thick plastic binder. Inside weren't legitimate medical records, but printed templates of official hospital letterheads, blank lab result forms, and a digital stamp software manual. Stashed behind her vanity were prescription bottles filled not with aggressive chemotherapy medications, but with high-dose daily multivitamins and over-the-counter nausea pills. She wasn't just faking symptoms. She had meticulously manufactured an entire paper trail to deceive our parents and steal my future. Standing there with the fake invoices in my hand, a cold rage settled over me. I couldn't just accuse her directly. My parents would immediately defend their dying child and brand me a jealous liar. I needed an ambush so airtight that even her tears couldn't save her. Instead of confronting her, I quietly arranged the trap. I contacted a licensed patient advocate and an accredited oncologist from the Regional Cancer Center, requesting an official in-home medical evaluation under the pretense of coordinating Chloe's transition to hospice care. I told my parents the evaluation was a necessary step to secure specialized financial aid, guaranteeing they would all be in the living room together. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, my parents, Chloe, and I sat in the living room. Chloe was draped in a silk blanket, playing the fragile victim to perfection. That was when Dr. Evans arrived, carrying a sleek leather briefcase and an official folder. Chloe's face went pale the moment he walked through the door. She tried to spring up, claiming she felt too sick for visitors, but Dr. Evans gently asked her to sit down. He set his briefcase on the coffee table, opened Chloe's file, and looked at my parents with an expression of cold, solemn gravity. The trap was sprung, and there was nowhere left for her to run. Dr. Evans pulled a set of documents from his folder and looked directly at my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, I reviewed the medical records and lab reports submitted under my clinic's letterhead, he said calmly. None of these documents came from our facility. Chloe Reed has never been registered as a patient in our oncology unit, nor has she ever received treatment for leukemia. My mother gasped, clutching her chest, while my father stared in stunned silence. Chloe immediately burst into hysterical tears, screaming that the hospital had mixed up her files and that Dr. Evans was lying. But the doctor didn't flinch. He pointed out that forging medical records and soliciting public donations constituted serious fraud. As the cold reality sank in, my father looked from the fake documents to Chloe's immaculate skin and designer clothes. The illusion vanished. My mother collapsed into tears, not for her daughter's health, but from the brutal realization that they had sacrificed their hardworking child to fund a cruel, calculated lie. The fallout was swift and absolute. My parents immediately froze the fundraiser account and cooperated with authorities to ensure every dollar collected from donors was fully refunded. Facing potential criminal charges for fraud, Chloe was forced to take a court-mandated plea deal that required hundreds of hours of community service and mandatory therapy. My parents, consumed by guilt and shame, transferred every single cent of my stolen tuition money back into my account, along with an apology I knew they'd spend years trying to earn. 2 months later, I finally boarded my flight to New York, stepping onto Columbia's campus not as a victim, but as a woman who reclaimed her own life. Standing up to toxic family members isn't easy, but protecting your future is always worth the fight. Asterisk, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to click the video on your screen right now for another mind-blowing tale. Thanks for watching. Asterisk.